You want to know who's the chairman of the South Carolina Freshman Caucus? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Herald, Myrtle Beach's oldest locally owned newspaper at its offices at Myrtle Square Mall next door to Belk. We're visiting with the Honorable Alan Clemmons, an attorney here in Myrtle Beach, the president of the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts, and the chairman of the Freshman Caucus representing House District 107. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Greg.
Golly, those are a lot of titles, pal.
Too many titles.
You've got too many plates. I mean, you're wearing too many hats.
The plate's full. It's true.
Absolutely. And aside from that, married almost 2 decades and the father of 2 amazing daughters.
2 decades? You make me sound old.
Well, that does, Alan.
Yes.
Golly.
Yes.
You've done quite a bit. It's amazing. It's so exciting to get you in. It was so exciting to just think exactly 2 weeks ago to the day we had South Carolina State Senator in, one of the 3 representing Horry County, Luke Rankin. It was a superstar opportunity. And, of course, today the opportunity to focus on I-73 and some of your activities there, but particularly the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts. Brad Dean was with us yesterday. Jim Head, is leaving the PD Area Council, the Scout Executive, heading out to Houston. He'll be in tomorrow. So it's so great to get you in between those 2 that you have such dramatic ties to.
Thank you. I'm honored to be with such an illustrious crowd.
It's a great lineup this week. Now, let's talk about yourself. Am I correct? Did you grow up in Myrtle Beach?
I did. Born and raised right here in Myrtle Beach. Born in Ocean View Memorial Hospital.
It sounds like oftentimes when folks say they're born in Myrtle Beach, they really mean they were born up in Conway. But you actually were born down here.
I suppose I was one of the first babies born at Ocean View Memorial Hospital, which no longer exists today, but was located down between Ocean Boulevard and Highway 17 on the north end.
And your family goes back a long way in Horry County.
They do, especially on my mother's side. My home is constructed on the side of my great-great-grandfather's home, as a matter of fact.
Is that right?
They go back a good ways. My dad's family have been in Horry County since the early 1950s.
But your mom, how many generations back? Do you have any idea?
Oh, my. As far as I can trace, back into the 1700s.
Is that right?
In Horry County. I'm related to the Todds and the Owenses that come from originally the Highway 90 area of Horry County. And then the Owenses moved towards the beach approximately 100 years ago, and that's where we are today. Amazing.
Had any of the ancestors in the past been active in politics, serving Horry County?
No, they were pretty much active in putting food on the table for the family. They were certainly not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, and worked real hard to provide for their families.
Alan, do you have brothers and sisters growing up?
I have one sister, 5 years older than I, Kay Clemmons. Callahan is her married name now. She lives in Irmo, South Carolina, near Columbia.
Oh, great. Are your parents still around?
They are. Carl and Jerry Clemmons. They both live on the south end of Myrtle Beach in Deerfield Plantation. My dad used to be the mailman. He's retired from the Postal Service. He used to be the downtown mailman walking the mail route downtown. People might remember him from my dad's trademark is his whistle. He has a happy tune whistling all day long.
Even now?
Even now.
Even now.
That's right.
That's hilarious. What was it like growing up in Myrtle Beach in the 60s and 70s? Not to date you, Alan, but the aspect of being here with so much growth going on now, and to think, what was it like in the 60s and 70s?
Greg, Myrtle Beach was a great place to grow up for me. My parents had a small motel, the Clementine Motel, and I grew up in that atmosphere, down near the pavilion and near the boulevard. And during the summertime, it was full of activity, taking care of our guests, keeping the pool clean, and doing those things that a son of a small motel owner was expected. But we always found fun time too.
I'm sure.
Time to play at the beach and meet my friends at the pavilion. It was a fun place to grow up. And when everything shut down on Labor Day, the big parties that we would have, celebrating the end of the season, and then we'd watch the sidewalks roll up, and the stoplights go to flashing, and we would resume our regular everyday lives.
Wow, Alan. Did you work at the family business at all, at the motel?
Oh, I think absolutely. It was certainly a family business, and we were all fully engaged in the business. I've changed many beds and filled up Coke machines.
I love it.
Cleaned pools, absolutely.
That is exciting. And your sister worked there as well?
Yes, she did.
Well, that's a great commitment to come up in that background. So if someone was to ask you your first childhood job, it would definitely be there.
Without a doubt. I suppose from the time I was about 7 years old.
What's it like being the father of daughters, Alan, and being so active in the Boy Scouts?
Oh, it's great being the father of daughters. You should know, Greg.
Oh, yeah, no, very definitely.
It's wonderful to have those sweet little girls at your side. And to be able to experience what they experience and be a part of their lives. My daughters are 7 and 12, and they grow up all too fast, but it's been a lot of fun. It's too bad that they're not in the Boy Scouts, but they have a lot of activities to keep them busy.
Yes. Have they gotten, do you mind me asking, have they gotten involved with Girl Scouts at all?
Well, my oldest was involved in Brownies for quite some time. Today, however, they have a number of activities dividing their attention.
It was a little more than 2 weeks ago when you took over as the new president of the PD Area Council of the Boy Scouts. A huge honor and a big opportunity. Of course, Ed Salivi done an amazing job for 3 years, but it was and that had been a multiple term, a little longer than usual. So it's so exciting to have. And of course, now an Horry County presence at the helm of the PD Area Council, 11 County Council. At that event, I think you talked about there were some activities you do with your daughters that were really special, and I know a number of the board members talked about that afterwards. I think you were talking about, I can't remember what all you were highlighting. Do you remember that?
Well, I in my remarks during the meeting, I related the fact that my daughters and I have several silent signs or symbols that we use. For instance, when my daughters might be in a group, in a political gathering where I've drugged them along to be with me and they're sitting out in the crowd, I might quietly raise my hand and do a little sign like so, which means I love you, and one of my daughters will catch my eye and signal back, I love you too. We have another symbol that means a lot to us in our family. When our daughters turn 7, they get a little sterling silver ring that has the initials CTR on the front of the ring. And the CTR stands for Choose the Right. And that's our family slogan, Choose the Right. And in my remarks, I was analogizing that to our outgoing CEO of the PD Area Council, Jim Head, and how he always works to choose the right in everything he does.
Absolutely. And of course, Jim will be with us tomorrow, and I want you to share a little bit with the viewers in a few minutes. Let's talk about, you grew up in scouting. Were you active in scouting with the PD Area Council here in Myrtle Beach?
I was. I was in Troop 855, sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I couldn't wait to get into scouting. My mother was involved in a youth organization at church where the scouting troop met, and I would go with her as a young boy to her meetings. And she was taking care of the young ladies there at church, and I would sit quietly in the corner and listen to the scout meetings, and I couldn't wait till I was old enough to be involved in scouting.
That's fascinating. And what was it about seeing the boys there interacting that really got you so excited?
I don't know if it was a combination of the spiffy uniforms and the camping. Certainly the camping was a big deal for me as a child. I looked forward to that, and I enjoyed every outdoor outing that we had.
You know, when we think about the uniforms, and of course at times now there have been some concerns. I remember Terry Alexander talking about within some of the congregations that he serves in the PD area that some of the guys aren't interested in the uniform aspect of being in scouting and get a little anxious about wearing uniforms and being in a regiment. but have gotten really used to it and have enjoyed it after they got into scouting and really wear it as a symbol of pride, wear their uniforms and, of course, the badges that are associated with it. For someone who didn't grow up in scouting, what's the significance of the uniforms, and does it make scouting like the military, or how exactly does that work?
Well, I think the uniform does a number of things. It draws the boys together as a unit. There's no one boy better dressed than any other boy in the unit, and there are symbols of progress displayed on the uniforms. The different ranks from Scout, Tenderfoot, Second Class on up to Life and Eagle Scout. And certainly for me, that was a big deal to see the older boys in the troop, the boys that I looked up to, wearing their Life badge or their Eagle badge. And for me, that became a goal for me. I wanted that Eagle badge on my pocket. And it meant a lot to me. You're right. There's always some concern about how I look in a crowd and how I'm dressed differently from others. For me, and I suspect with a lot of scouts today, I was proud to wear my scout uniform to school on scouting days. It made me feel special and set me apart.
And it's really important, the aspect you opened up with, that all the boys are dressed the same. And so no one can wear a totally spiffy outfit. Of course, it's that yearning to continue to get more badges and continue to make...
They're all wearing spiffy outfits.
Right, yeah. Excuse me, that's exactly right. You know, I think the first time we were together, Alan, with Carolina People, you took the time, and it was very impromptu, and of course asked you to recite the Scout Oath. When did you first learn the Scout Oath? Is that something right at the outset, and what has enabled you to keep that lodged in your mind as long as you've been with scouting?
I did. I suppose I learned that when I was about 11 years old, when I first became involved with Boy Scouts. And it's the first thing that I learned in scouting. And it truly is the most important thing, looking back on it as an adult. The message delivered in the Scout Oath is the most important thing to be learned in scouting, and it's what we're all about. Certainly the repetition as a youth helped me remember the words, but the activities, the things we learned, the skills we learned, and the things that my scoutmaster taught me about the meaning of the Scout Oath. That's what really has stayed with me.
You know, I hadn't planned on asking you, but I want to ask you to recite the oath and then to break it down for us. Just break it down for viewers who may not be familiar in scouting. Give us the Scout Oath, if you don't mind, Alan, and then if we could try to break that down real quick, I'd be interested.
Sure, I'd be happy to. The Scout Oath it goes as follows. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. The components are really self-explanatory. The first part, honor, on my honor. What can we have that means any more to us in life than the honor that we build for ourselves throughout our life? Do our best to do our duty. Greg, I know you do. You do your best to do your duty. You serve us well in the Boy Scouts of America here in the PD Area Council. And I strive to do that as well. And that is a part of scouting, an important part of scouting. To do our best, to do our duty. To God, it seems to be politically incorrect to bring God into public discussion today. It certainly is not incorrect in scouting. We hold those traditional family values important, and we promote them. We begin every scout meeting with a prayer. God and country, we emphasize those. Those are important components of scouting.
That's very important. I'm glad you took the time to break down. It's so special to think about both the creed of scouting and the insistence that all young men, all boys who get active in scouting, learn that early on, and it sticks with them. I didn't grow up in scouting, and so I've been learning a lot from you adult men and the women who've been active in the PD Area Council. There's so many volunteers. I think 2,500 within the 11 county council helping to turn these young boys into men. When you think about, Alan, of course, a very exciting, you grew up in Myrtle Beach, high school, am I correct? And then went off to USC at Coastal Carolina.
That's correct. I went through Myrtle Beach schools. Started at Myrtle Heights Elementary School, which is today Myrtle Beach Elementary, where my youngest daughter attends, Kelly. And progressed through the Myrtle Beach schools, graduated from Myrtle Beach High School in 1977, and then entered college at Coastal Carolina, which was then a branch campus of the University of South Carolina.
Eddie Dyer was with us earlier this week, who was a superstar guest, and learned so much from him about his almost three decades. We talked about your 2 decades of marriage, but almost 3 decades there at Coastal Carolina. It's exciting as a political science professor.
Eddie Dyer's a great guy. In fact, I remember when he came to Coastal Carolina in the 70s.
Right.
And I remember Eddie is today, and Eddie, if you're listening, you are one of the most conservative people I know. But that's changed over the decades. I remember the long hair and the bell-bottom jeans. But Eddie is a great guy, and he was one of my favorite professors when I was at Coastal.
That's great. That's great, Alan. You later went on to law school, and you've been practicing law now in the Horry County area for how long?
Since 1990, I suppose. I attended law school in Minnesota, came back home to Myrtle Beach, started practicing with actually the gentleman that was my parents' attorney, Wendell McCracken, and Mike Barnett, John Richardson, and there I am today. We're still partners.
Fantastic. You started in with them early on, and you've since risen to the rank or to that position as a partner in the firm.
That's correct.
Spectacular. Where's the firm located?
The main office of the firm is on 21st Avenue at the corner of 21st and Cromley Circle, just behind Broadway at the beach.
What does the firm specialize in, Alan?
We're a general practice firm. We handle various different areas of the law. Personally, I practice in the area of real estate specifically.
And of course, a big transition for you, Alan, has occurred. And as we were saying earlier this morning, there's an aspect of you as a part-time attorney because you've taken on this position as a House member, which, of course, even though it's perceived as a part-time job, it is a full-time job. So how have you been able to, what's the transition been like since you were elected last year? And, of course, have taken on this position. And I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be the chairman of the freshman caucus, I believe. But talk a little bit about the transition for you.
It's been an interesting transition. My wife would probably object to my saying I'm a part-time attorney. My staff might agree with you, though. I do have a great staff that does a good job in helping me manage my practice to give me the time to do what needs to be done in my representation of District 107 in the South Carolina House. You asked about the freshman caucus. I have the honor of having been elected in the first week of service in the House as chairman of the 21-member freshman caucus. That would be all of the new members of the House of Representatives. That's really been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed getting to know our freshmen. We've been a very active group. I'm told that our group has been more active than any recall in recent memory. Every other week we've got together with a different agency head, department head, the governor, a different person every other week in state government to learn about their office, what they can do to help our constituents, and what we can do to better serve the people of South Carolina through their various offices. We had a really great opportunity, I suppose 3 weeks ago now, for the Horry County area and tourism in general to host a freshman caucus retreat here in Myrtle Beach.
Right.
It was a great time. It truly was. We had about 20 members of the House, both freshmen and leadership in the House, cycle through during a 4-day retreat. We were hosted by the very generous Creel family who own several oceanfront properties. They put our group up at the beautiful Caravel Resort on the ocean front. We took the freshmen and leadership to venues such as Ripley's Aquarium and Dixie Stampede. They played golf at Wild Wing. They enjoyed the beauty of Brook Green Gardens. And interspersed through all of that were presentations from area leaders concerning tourism.
Great, Alan.
It was a great opportunity.
Absolutely. Now, are any of the members of the state senate part of the freshman caucus, or is the caucus explicit to the?
The freshman caucus that I chair is solely comprised solely of the freshmen in the House of Representatives.
Okay. Is there something similar to that for the Senate?
I don't believe so. I don't think
It's a
they've
much
ever
smaller
had it.
group.
It's a much smaller group. Their incoming classes would be much smaller. I believe there were only 1 or 2 incoming senators during the last election.
Now, you've also taken over, Alan, am I correct, as the chairman of the I-73, the commission or the state association overseeing the potential expansion of I-73?
Greg, 3 weeks ago Tuesday, we took part, a delegation from the Grand Strand and South Carolina in general, particularly the PD, were invited to Greensboro to be a part of the I-73 Coalition of States meeting, which was the first meeting of that nature in the last 5 years. The group had 5 years ago been disbanded. It has been reinvigorated in recent months. The South Carolina delegation did me the honor of electing me as the chair. The chair of the newly formed South Carolina I-73 Association. This association will take the lead in sponsoring lobbying trips to Washington, visits of the Coalition of States to South Carolina, and doing what's necessary to get I-73 up and off the ground in South Carolina to be a part of the entire 7-state network.
What's the significance of I-73? Why is that a big deal? I mean, why is that something that we need to have a chairman overseeing an association? I mean, how's that going to impact the area, Alan? Talk about that. And of course, the bulk of our viewers are in the PD and in southeastern North Carolina. That'll obviously be dramatically impacted by I-73 as well.
It absolutely will, Greg. I-73 will have huge economic impact and consequences for the entire PD region and surrounding area. First of all, we need the ingress and egress for our visitors. Tourism is the engine that runs the economy of South Carolina. It is the number 1 industry. Tourism is the number 1 export from South Carolina. To properly serve our guests in South Carolina at the jewel in our crown of tourism, Myrtle Beach, we need interstate access to get them here and to get them home. But probably what's more important for our visitors and for our permanent residents is emergency evacuation. It takes up to 3 days to fully evacuate the Grand Strand in the event of an emergency. That's using every road we have, and interstate will aid us tremendously in emergency evacuation. At any given time, we have 500,000 people in Myrtle Beach during our summer months. Can you imagine having a hurricane evacuation in August with 500,000 people without interstate access?
That would be a nightmare, and I know Brad Dean talked a little bit about that yesterday.
It would be.
And it would have well, that's very exciting. We're really excited about those opportunities, and I hope at some point, Alan, you all will break down just the simple impact of tourism from the Myrtle Beach area. I think viewers would be interested in understanding how that affects the state, how the numbers work, and how that vital impact of Myrtle Beach affects our state economy.
Thank you. It's important for everyone to understand, especially the legislators. That's why this freshman caucus event was so important. Back to I-73, just to finish my response, the PD counties are going to be enhanced tremendously by the economic impact of being able to do business with all the states along the I-73 corridor. So it's important to us all.
That's a very good point. We've got a little less than 2 minutes, Alan. Jim Head will be with us tomorrow. He's been our scout executive with the PD Area Council for almost 6 years now, and of course he'll be leaving us to head to Houston. Can you share with the viewers real quick just a minute about the significance of Jim Head on the PD Area Council and why it's such a tough loss for the council?
Greg, I'd be happy to. Jim Head has been in the PD for the last 6 years. He came to us with a lot of good ideas, a lot of common sense, and a desire to do the right thing. And he has done that for the last 6 years, to the tremendous benefit of scouting effort in the PD region. We were just honored in the PD Area Council as being the number 5 council in the entire nation with regard to our program and growth in Cub Scouting. We are number 5 in the nation. We have a beautiful camp at Camp Coker that has realized $1.5 million improvements to serve our youth. That's gone in the last few years under the watch of Jim Head. Jim Head has brought integrity. He's brought a desire to do what's right and a desire to deliver the scouting message to children, to have an impact on future generations. His loss is going to be tremendous, but we will do the right thing, and we will find a good person to replace Jim Head who will pick up his banner and continue doing the right, choosing the right.
Lastly, Alan, what do you like best about serving the residents of Myrtle Beach and particularly Horry County?
I see this as an opportunity to assist in the growth of our economy in South Carolina, and in particular here in Horry County. I see it also as an opportunity to help other people. I've worked very closely with the senior population, the Silver-Haired Legislature, and the AARP over the last year that I was in the legislature, pushing important issues such as prescription drug coverage for seniors, affordable drug coverage, things that are important to the people of Horry County. And when I see measures like that gain momentum and achieve success, and then the lives of people made better, it's very rewarding for me.
I'm sure it is, Alan. We hear about service over self. Alan talked about scouting. He talked about seniors and that service aspect of exactly the impact of I-73 and trying to get folks out of the area. Alan, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank the Honorable Alan Clemmons and his amazing commitment to the citizens of South Carolina for making today's Carolina People so special.